July 10th, 1998, saw the release of Small Soldiers. Directed by Joe Dante, Small Soldiers is the tale about a delinquent child named Alan caught in the battle between two factions of toys powered by advanced military microchips. On one side were the Gorgonites, a peaceful race of mutants who simply wanted to return to their home of Gorgon, and they were led by their brave emissary Archer. Now their opposition were the militaristic commando elite, led by the cruel Major Chip Hazard, who were programmed with the sole mission of eliminating all the Gorgonites, as well as everyone else who decided to side with them. Hilarity and violence ensued. For a film about toys, the merchandise that Small Soldiers spawned was inevitable. Video games, t-shirts, board games, and most obvious, the action figures. But for a movie marketed towards children, the film received an MPAA rating of PG-13. But why? As Joe Dante would later put it in a 2008 interview with Den of Geek, originally I was told to make an edgy picture for teenagers, but when the sponsor tie-ins came in, the new mandate was to soften it up as a kiddie movie. Too late, as it turned out, and there are elements of both approaches in there. Even as a kid growing up, a lot of what made Small Soldiers memorable was wanting to have these action figures for myself. But by the time I grew up watching the film on VHS in the year 2005, these toys were scarce. The fact that I found a Major Chip Hazard at a garage sale was nothing short of luck. Almost like a movie about toys barely had enough to go around. For a franchise completely based on toys, and for as little as we get lore, it's really surprising to see, in terms of popular 80s and 90s mainstream culture of the last 2 decades, that Small Soldiers really didn't get the recognition it deserves, in my opinion. I mean, why is it not prevalent for this franchise today? Digging online, a subreddit on the movie has less than 100 members. There are hardly any retrospectives on the film or its associated media on YouTube. Compared to Joe Dante's earlier works in films like The Burbs or Gremlins, the recognition of Small Soldiers in his filmography feels even smaller. I mean, think about it. Gremlins is recognized as a pop culture film with thousands of fans from all over the world, as well as garnering huge fandoms online. I mean, Gremlins is such a prominent film in Dante's work that Small Soldiers can't help but reference the Mogwai Gizmo in its first act.
Mine's Gizmo.
The most recent example of an obscure reference to Small Soldiers was in 2019's Season 4, Episode 4 of Rick and Morty. But since its 1998 release, there hasn't been a Small Soldiers explosion into mainstream. Nor is it considered a Hollywood icon with the likes of Toy Story, Child's Play, or Gremlins. Financially, Small Soldiers' worldwide gross totaled up to $71.1 million over its budget of $40 million. Not accounting for inflation and the cost of marketing, DreamWorks and Universal may have considered the film a disappointment. Hence why talks of a sequel or any other development in the Small Soldiers franchise were never discussed after its release. The film critics at the time were definitely not helping. According to Roger Ebert's conclusion in his review, what bothered me most about Small Soldiers is that it didn't tell me where to stand, what attitude to adopt. In movies for adults, I like that quality. But there is a movie being sold to kids, with a lot of toy tie-ins and ads on the children's TV channels. Below a certain age, they like to know what they can count on. When Barbie clones are being sliced and diced by a lawnmower, are they going to understand the satirical purpose? Peter Travers of the Rolling Stone appears to demonize the film, stating, "What a shame that his final screen role," referring to Phil Hartman, traps Hartman in a noisy gimmick flick about toy soldiers that come to life and start kicking human ass. It seems that all the ingenuity was lavished on the toys. Even years after release, people, and by people I mean YouTubers, needed a goal to mock the dated CGI, the confusion of violence in a film marketed towards children, and Small Soldiers just not being considered one of Joe Dante's best works. As underlooked as any film can be, there's always a cult following. In this case, a cult movie toy following from the most dedicated fans I've ever met for this property. Small Soldiers Fans and Collectors is a private Facebook group of more than 190 members. Jonathan Eisenhower serves as the moderator and admin of the group. Both a collector of high-priced props and memorabilia from the film, as well as a superfan of the obscure franchise, Eisenhower noticed many of the groups and online communities for the film were not very active, and he sought to make one that is now comprised of replica makers, collectors, fans, and even crew that worked on the production, as he states. For Eisenhower, being a collector was less about showing off and more about preserving his childhood. It was a movie that I really loved and sparked my imagination. As a kid, I, along with many others, wanted to have the real figures, and I've been able to accomplish that as an adult. Something I thought would never happen. Other collectors in the group were more about accuracy, movie accuracy, as well as scrapping recreations of their favorite characters. One collector that I met in the group, Nolan Gull, had just completed a movie-accurate replica of the Commando Elite leader, Major Chip Hazard, having purchased what he considered one of the worst kits on the model from someone online. Gull spent from around November 2019 up until April 2020 before fully finishing, painting, detailing, and putting together his replica chip. The results are astounding, especially when it comes to a side-by-side comparison. Even after all of this hard time and money spent on the work, Gull still planned to provide scans of his near-perfect replica for others to 3D print. Gull's opinion on collecting is a bit more particular, as you'll see. And most of that energy all comes from what I consider a time forgotten. Collectors are definitely fueled by nostalgia, or at least for me. For instance, I collect a lot of items that I always wanted growing up. A lot of members in the group are different though. Some are close to obsessive, where they collect the most random items just because they are connected to the movie. I'd rather have an accurate replica that reminds me of the movies than a crappy prop. But that's just me. But aside from the collectors, Small Soldiers fans turned creators can be just as passionate and obsessive, bringing the combination of fond childhood memories of Small Soldiers and bringing them to life through their creative talents. Stan Winston has worked with film special effects, makeup, puppetry, and even practical effects for some of the most iconic films of the last 4 decades. Jurassic Park, Predator, Edward Scissorhands, Terminator, Iron Man, and even Aliens. During the production of Small Soldiers, Winston was brought in by Joe Dante to create sophisticated rod puppets, fill-ins, and multiple duplicates of each toy for the film. But how long did you think it took Winston and his team to construct from concept art to these sophisticated and small characters for a big production movie? Answer: 5 months. In an article by Stan Winston's School of Character Arts, due to a deal with Hasbro to mass-produce a Small Soldiers toy line and the necessity for the film's release to be timed precisely with the debut of that toy line, every aspect of the production was subjected to a similarly tight schedule. The turnaround time for an average Hasbro toy ranges from 10 to 55 weeks at best. So the need to give fleshed-out personalities, final designs to these characters and toys meant Winston's studio was essentially on 2 tight deadlines between a toy company and a film production. As explained in the same article, the original production plan was to shoot most of the live-action toy scenes with puppets on a blue screen stage, rather than on the sets. Industrial Light and Magic would then composite those blue screen elements into final scenes. Shortly into production, however, Dante abandoned the idea, preferred an in-camera live-action approach with the toy puppets right there on his sets interacting with the actors. Just looking at the behind-the-scenes test footage on moving these puppets with teams of what looks like more than 10 people is nothing short of incredible. Unfortunately, Dante, in an interview, would later add that not everything brought together by Stan Winston's studio made the cut, as about 1/3 of the film used puppetry, while the remaining 2/3 of the film used CGI to bring the toys to life. The time, effort, and love in bringing these toys to life clearly showed, as some of the small superfans of Small Soldiers have applied their own artistic prowess to craft their childhood dream of making the Commando Elite and the Gorgonites through 3D print scanning, clay, paint, and the same love that brought these toys into the big screen. Enter Jokers_Customs, an Instagram account created by J.R. Dejesus, a self-taught sculptor, creator, and artist who has been recreating the original Small Soldiers characters. From the boxes that they came from, down to each of their intricate facial structures and colors, he has been sharing his work for the last few years, including to fellow fans of the Small Soldiers fans and collectors Facebook group, in which I discovered the hundreds of photos documenting his process. Unfortunately, due to time constraints and other factors, I was unable to get an interview with Dejesus on his dedication of the craft or thoughts on the film. Luckily, his 2015 article on the Stan Winston School of Character Arts website provided an excellent insight on his background, as well as the inspiration in spending days and even months crafting his childhood characters with his own 2 hands. Dejesus explains that ever since he saw the film in theaters, he became invested in not just the toys, but the special effects and craft behind the scenes, even researching Stan Winston and his studio. Fast forwarding to Dejesus is overhearing his 2 sons calling him about something that they were watching. As fate would have it, they were watching Small Soldiers. His children were begging to get their hands on one of these toys, and after looking online, was unable to find every figure exactly like they were in the movie. Of course, his children's response: why not make them? And the rest is history. Dejesus scoured the film for references on models, spoke with collectors, and even members of the film's production, and sought to do what Stan Winston's studio did decades ago. To this day, Dejesus continues his work, with many individuals and designers who worked on the film commending Dejesus' passion in not just recreating the nostalgia of its franchise, but passing down hard work to his own children, almost as if preserving Archer, Chip Hazard, Nick Nitro, and the many other characters Stan Winston Studio created all those years ago to the next generation. In my own research for this video, I had an interview with Adam Zanzie, a YouTuber who made In Defense of Small Soldiers in 2018. In our interview, Zanzie highlights how some critics at the time of the film's release did have differing sentiments over the negative press. Some highbrow film critics admire Small Soldiers for entirely different reasons, Jonathan Rosenbaum's review for the Chicago Reader is centered on his thesis that the film is great because, in his view, it's a film that not only satirizes war, but that it makes war films like Saving Private Ryan, a movie which Rosenbaum infamously dislikes, quote, look ridiculous. Rosenbaum wittily quips that Phil Hartman's World War II was my favorite war, quote, sounds like something Steven Spielberg might say. Zanzie clearly stands against the likes of Nostalgia Critic and other YouTube reviewers who saw Small Soldiers as nothing more than a decent, forgettable experience. In his blog post of the film, up until then, I was enjoying Small Soldiers merely as gleeful, escapist entertainment pumped full of big action, bad toys, dopey parents, a hot teenage Kirsten Dunst, and an insecure teenage hero I immediately identified with in young Gregory Smith. But by the time Archer gave his speech, rallying the Gorgonites to fight, something about Small Soldiers appealed to the grade school warrior in me, and I realized that this was a very intelligent film, treating me like an adult with its focus not just on the issue of growing pains, but the issues of warfare. If the combination of two differing tones between a teen and kids movie was what dispelled critics in 1998, then Zanzie saw the exact opposite of this, and he's certainly not alone. I was also given the opportunity to speak with two other YouTubers, The Artist Shark and Today I Grew Up, who have covered Small Soldiers and their toys in the same positive light. On Today I Grew Up's opinion of the film's obscurity from the mainstream 90s nostalgia, I feel like it never took off as big as some of its cultural icon contenders, mainly because you have a lot of complexity to it that didn't quite have a target demographic. Toy Story is for kids, Child's Play is not for kids, then Small Soldier comes out as PG-13. It's for teenagers? It's cheesy, but it's not everyone's style. It wasn't dark enough to be a Child's Play, and I think that's the edge it needed. Or go more the kids' direction. But maybe it wouldn't have been as big of a film. To me, Small Soldiers is one of the most underrated films of all time. On Artist Shark's short take of this idea, Small Soldiers was in its own category, and I don't think people understood it. It's ahead of its time. Unfortunately, the chance for a revival to bring back Small Soldiers appears to be all but a dream now, and perhaps the end of a franchise ever re-entering the mainstream. Surprisingly, after the Disney acquisition of Fox in 2019, Looper reports that a film called Toymageddon, later turned out to be a Small Soldiers remake, was canceled, along with other planned remakes that were in development by Fox prior to the purchase. Throughout my research, I never considered the likes, the views, and readers that see materials and content for Small Soldiers online. Sure, they might not be collecting the toys, recreating them in their work in studio, but they obviously have memories of seeing the film and what they took from it. They're still fans. Not to measure one's devotion of a property in a hierarchy, but it's clear that fans like Dejesus or Eisenhower aren't doing this to show off. They're doing it because of the work, time, and love they have put on Small Soldiers is continuing to bring people's attention, or even fleeting memories of the film, and creating that connection with like-minded fans. As obscure as these fans appear to be from other toy-based franchises, Small Soldiers has formed communities and groups from all walks of life. And however many there appears to be, their passion and sense of wonder means a whole lot more to the people who worked hard to bring it together. Numbers don't matter. And it's clear that Small Soldiers fans will live on and pass their love for the movie for generations. If anything, Archer makes a good point about this. Even if you can't see something, it doesn't mean it isn't there.